My husband and his lover threw my father's portrait through the window. It shattered. I stood in the rain holding the portrait. He shouted loudly, "Go away, your whole family is trash, disgusting. Go back to your mother's house. Be careful not to get hit by a car." After that, he and his lover closed the door and locked it. But he didn't expect that it would make him regret it. I'm Taya. Welcome to Stories of Auntie Maya. I share new life stories here every day, and I'd really appreciate it if you hit subscribe and liked my video. Now, let's jump back into my story. I'm sure you'll love it if you keep listening till the end. Drop a comment down below telling me where you're watching from and what time it is for you right now. I read every single comment, and it helps me to know I'm not alone in this, that my story matters. Trust me, you're going to want to hear how this ends. You're going to want to know what I found, what I did, and how I survived. I'm Taya. I can't even cry yet. My face is too cold. Let me take you back just a little because I need you to understand how I got here. 4 months ago, my mom got real sick. Lungs filling up, couldn't breathe on her own some nights. I left everything. Our beautiful apartment, Draven's big, important job, all of it, and went back to the countryside. I slept on a cot next to her hospital bed, cleaned her when she couldn't make it to the bathroom, held her hand while she coughed so hard I thought her ribs would break. Draven texted maybe twice a week. "How is she?" That's it. I told myself he was busy, that he was holding down the fort so I could focus on Mom. I was stupid. Mom pulled through, thank God, but the doctor said she needs someone with her 24/7 for a while longer. I was packing to go back to her when Draven finally called. "Come home, babe, I miss you." His voice sounded sweet again, like the old days. I believed him. I got on the night train with my hospital bag and the smell of antiseptic still in my hair, thinking I was coming home to my husband. The elevator opens to our floor, and the first thing I notice is the lights are all on, bright and wasteful, like someone doesn't pay the bills anymore. Second thing, perfume in the air that isn't mine. Draven standing in the hallway, arms folded, looking at me like I'm a delivery he didn't order. Not a hug, not even a real smile. Just this slow look up and down. My messy hair, the mud on my boots, the dark circles under my eyes. He actually steps back so I don't brush against his shirt. "Hey," I say, voice cracking from no sleep. "I'm home." He doesn't answer, just stares. Then I hear barefoot steps on the hardwood. She walks out of our bedroom, wearing my favorite robe, the cream silk one with the little T embroidered on the pocket that I bought on our 3rd anniversary. It's tied loose, like she's been here long enough to be comfortable. Her hair is blow-dried perfect. Mine looks like I stuck my head out the train window the whole way. Miel. Of course it's Miel from his office, the one who used to bring him coffee and laugh too loud at his jokes. She leans against the doorframe, smirks at me, and says, "Oh, you're back." Draven doesn't even look embarrassed. He just sighs like I'm an inconvenience and says, "We need to talk." Talk. Sure. Before I can put my bag down, he's dragging my old brown suitcase, the one Daddy gave me when I first moved to the city, out of the closet. He opens the balcony door and hurls it over the railing. 4 floors down, it hits the lobby floor with a bang that makes the night guard jump. My clothes explode out like confetti. "Draven, what the hell?" Next goes my jewelry box, then my laptop, my wedding album. I'm running after him screaming, but he's faster, stronger, angrier than I've ever seen him. Every time I reach for something, he shoves me back. Then I see it in his hand. Daddy's memorial photo, the only picture I have of him smiling in front of the old wooden house. Black frame, gold edges. Draven looks straight at me while he holds it over the railing. "Don't," I whisper. "Please." He lets go. I hear the glass break before I feel it in my chest. The picture lands face down in the puddle my clothes are making. Daddy's face cracked right across the eyes. Miel laughs from the balcony above us. Actually, laughs. Draven comes down the stairs slow, like a king. He stops 2 steps above me so he can look down. "You come from nothing," he says, voice cold. You always were nothing. Time you remembered that. He pulls my wallet out of my bag, takes out every card we share, snaps them one by one. Then he punches a new code into the door pad. I hear the lock click permanent. Get your trash out of the lobby before security throws it in the dumpster, he says, and walks away. The door shuts again, final this time. I'm on my knees in the middle of all my broken stuff, rain blowing in from the front doors, trying to pick pieces of glass out of Daddy's smile. My phone is dead, cards gone, keys gone. I have exactly 37 cents in change and the clothes on my back. I sit there until the guard tells me I have to leave. My fingers find something hard in my coat pocket. The old bank card Daddy gave me years ago. Plain plastic, no name on it, just a little note in his handwriting. Only if you really need it, baby girl. I always thought it was empty, a sweet joke from a man who never had much. I'm shaking so hard I can barely stand, but I look up at the penthouse windows, lights still blazing, silhouettes of them moving around like nothing happened, and I ask myself out loud, voice cracking, could this be my last chance to survive? I didn't sleep, not even for a minute. The rain kept coming down in that cold, miserable way that soaks right through to your bones, and I just walked. Up one street, down another, past shops pulling up their shutters, past early delivery trucks. My feet were numb inside my shoes, squishing with every step. But I couldn't stop moving or I'd fall apart right there on the sidewalk. Daddy's broken picture frame was pressed so tight against my chest, I could feel the jagged glass through my coat, like if I held it close enough, he'd still be breathing in there with me. That stupid little bank card was the only thing in my pocket, rubbing against my fingers every time I reached for it to make sure it was real. It felt heavier than the suitcase Draven threw down 4 floors, heavier than the wedding ring I wasn't wearing anymore. By the time the sun started trying to come up, that sick gray light that makes everything look worse, I was standing in front of Wallingford Bank like a stray dog, waiting for someone to open the door. I caught my reflection in the glass, hair plastered flat and dripping, yesterday's mascara smeared halfway down my cheeks, lips blue from the cold. I looked exactly like what Draven called me. Nothing. The second the door slid open, the security guard did that little head-to-toe scan, and his hand was already moving toward me like he was going to point me back to the street. Even the girl at the first counter leaned back when I walked up, nose wrinkling like I smelled of the gutter. Ma'am, the women's shelter opens at 8. It's 3 blocks east. I didn't say a word, just pulled out that old card, the one Daddy pressed into my hand years ago, with a wink and, only if you ever really need it, baby girl. Plain white plastic, edges worn soft, no fancy chip, no name on the front, just his handwriting on the back in faded blue ink. I slid it across the marble like I was handing over my last breath. She sighed, big, dramatic eye roll, pinched it between 2 manicured nails like it might have germs, and swiped. The machine made this sound, not the normal beep, a long, low chime I'd never heard before. Red lights started flashing on her screen. She froze, looked at me again like she was seeing a ghost. Then her manager appeared out of nowhere, then another manager, then security crowding behind me like I was suddenly dangerous. Miss, please come with us. They didn't leave me sitting there long. A side door opened, and 2 people in perfect suits basically lifted me out of the chair and walked me down a hallway I didn't even know existed, past the regular customers, who were staring like I'd grown a second head. The private room was all beige and quiet, thick carpet, those soft leather chairs that swallow you. Someone pushed a china cup of coffee into my shaking hands. It smelled expensive, but tasted like ash because my mouth was still full of last night's tears. Then the woman came in, tall, gray streak in her hair, heels that didn't make a sound. She didn't smile, just started laying things on the table like she was dealing cards in slow motion. Thick cream folders, red ribbon ties, gold seals, one after another. Land deeds with survey maps folded inside, trust declarations, holdings lists that went on for pages, every single one stamped with a name I'd never heard in my life. Harlan Properties Trust. I remember squinting at it, thinking maybe they had the wrong person. Maybe this was some awful mix-up. And then she slid the alias certificate across the polished wood, the one that ties the fake company name to the real man. I saw his signature at the bottom, that same careful slant he used when he signed my school permission slips. My daddy. The same man who came home every night with tar under his fingernails, who ate beans on toast so I could have new shoes, who kissed my forehead and smelled like cheap coffee and honest sweat. The man I buried in a plain pine box because we couldn't afford anything better. All this time he'd been sitting on enough dirt to own half the city, and he never breathed a word. Not one. Turns out he owned half the undeveloped acres around Wallingford, bought them decades ago with cash nobody knew he had, registered everything under shell companies so nobody could take it from us if something happened to him. And there, in a thick cream envelope sealed with red wax, was his will. The instruction on the front made my throat close up. For my daughter. Open only when she has hit rock bottom and has no one left to trust but herself. I was definitely there. They gave me a key and an address I already knew by heart, Daddy's old wooden house on the edge of town. I took a cab because suddenly money wasn't a problem anymore. The driver kept staring in the rear view like he couldn't figure out how someone who looked like me could pay with a black credit card that had no limit. The house hadn't been opened in years. The air inside hit me like a wet towel, mold and dust and memories. I walked straight to Daddy's office, the little room where he used to do his invoices under a single lamp. I was running my fingers along the wood paneling, whispering sorry for letting everything fall apart, when the wall just gave. A whole section crumbled like it had been waiting for me. Bricks tumbled out, and behind them was a small cedar box sealed with the same red wax. My hands were shaking too hard to open it clean. Inside, the original will, a ledger full of land plots circled in red, and an old cassette tape with Fortea, When You're Ready, written in his handwriting. I found his ancient tape player in the drawer. Still worked. I pressed play, and his voice filled the room, deep and slow like Sunday mornings. Hey, baby girl, if you're listening to this, some man probably showed you your worth is nothing. I'm sorry I'm not there to break his jaw. But listen close. I left you enough ground under this city to stand taller than any of them ever could. The big parcel on the east side, the one they're calling the Riverside Project now, that's ours, every inch. And the permits they're using, they're expired the second you say so. I sat on the dusty floor and cried so hard the tape wobbled. All this time, Draven was bragging about his big development, posting pictures of cranes and foundations, telling everyone how he was going to be the king of Wallingford. And every brick was sitting on land that belongs to the poor trash family he just threw out like garbage. I rewound the tape and played that part again just to be sure. He needs my signature to keep building. Without it, the whole project dies tomorrow. I looked around that crumbling room, at the hole in the wall, at Daddy's careful handwriting, at the power now resting in my cracked, tired hands. Draven took everything from me in one night. Turns out I get to take everything from him with one pen stroke. I started going through every single debt that Draven had hidden. And sisters, it turned out the man who looked down on my family was standing on my family's foundation. I started going through every single debt Draven had hidden, and let me tell you, the deeper I dug, the sicker I felt. It turned out the man who looked down on my family was literally standing on my family's foundation, building his empire on dirt that carried my daddy's name. There was this one thing still left in the bottom of the cedar box, under the will and the tape, almost like Daddy knew I'd be too numb to notice it at first. A single business card, edges soft and yellowed from years of being hidden away. Plain white stock, nothing fancy, just a local phone number printed in faded black, and on the blank side, Daddy's handwriting I'd know anywhere. Mr. Ellis, only if you ever need the truth about what I left you. My fingers were trembling so hard I nearly dropped it. I walked through the dark house to the kitchen wall where the old landline still hung, cord all twisted like nobody had touched it since he died. Dust came off on my hand when I picked up the receiver. I dialed slow, scared the number wouldn't even work anymore. 2 rings. Then a voice, low and rough but warm underneath, like whiskey poured over river stones. "Harlan's girl?" That's all he said. No hello, no who's this, just those 2 words, and I knew he'd been waiting for this call maybe longer than I'd been alive. I couldn't even answer at first, just made this choked sound. He told me to sit tight. He was on his way. 53 minutes later, the headlights swept across the cracked window, and there he was on the porch. Tall, silver hair catching the moonlight, cheap navy suit that had seen better days but pressed perfect, eyes sharp and tired, like he'd watched too many people lose everything and still showed up anyway. He looked at the house, looked at me standing there barefoot in yesterday's clothes, and gave one slow nod, like he already understood every single thing that had broken me in the last 24 hours. He stepped inside without asking, set his battered briefcase on Daddy's kitchen table like he'd done it 100 times before, and that's when I knew. This man had been Daddy's secret keeper all along. Mr. Ellis didn't waste time on pity. He spread the bank folders across the table, connected his laptop, and started pulling up accounts I didn't even know existed. Land portfolios with red boundaries around every major empty lot in the city. Mineral rights, old leases turned into gold. Then he opened the current usage rights, and there it was in black and white. Draven's company, Riverside Elite Estates, listed as temporary tenant on the biggest parcel. Temporary, because the real owner had never signed the final transfer. That owner was me. While Mr. Ellis clicked through screens, he kept shaking his head slow. "Your husband's company is bleeding out," he said. Overdue invoices stacked like bricks, suppliers threatening liens, workers picketing outside the site because 3 months of wages still hadn't hit their accounts. The bank was circling, ready to call in loans the second one big payment bounced. I asked him to show me the debt registry, every creditor, every unpaid bill. Page after page of small contractors, family businesses, men who poured concrete in the rain and still couldn't pay rent because Draven decided their invoices could wait. I recognized some of the names, guys who waved at me whenever I visited the site back when Draven still pretended to love me. Mr. Ellis turned the laptop so I could see the full picture. Red numbers everywhere. Negative cash flow. Shell companies hiding money that wasn't even there. A house of cards built on pride and my daddy's land. I sat back and stared at the cracked ceiling. All those nights I apologized for being too tired from taking care of Mom. All the times Draven rolled his eyes when I talked about Daddy's bad back and cheap boots. He was living in a penthouse my father paid for without ever knowing it. Every designer suit, every bottle of whiskey, every smirk Miel gave me while wearing my robe, all of it balanced on ground that was never his. My chest hurt so bad I could barely breathe. Not from crying this time, from the weight of how stupid I'd been and how perfectly Daddy had protected me anyway. The printer in the corner of Daddy's office had been coughing and whining like an old dog, but it kept spitting out page after page until the table looked like a war room. Hot paper, sharp, fresh ink smell that stung my nose and made my heart beat faster, because every sheet was another nail. Mr. Ellis didn't say much, just slid the stacks toward me, neat little bricks of proof. Then he stopped. One finger on the screen, one slow tap with his cheap ballpoint. Tap, tap, like he was making sure I was really looking. There it was, glowing red in the spreadsheet. A bridge loan, 8 figures that made my stomach flip. Private lender, not a bank, some shadowy outfit out of the capital that doesn't ask gentle questions. The collateral, every single acre of the Riverside parcel. My parcel. Due in full in 29 days now. If Draven missed that payment, the lender could seize the land, the equipment, the whole damn dream he'd been bragging about on every billboard from here to the highway. Mr. Ellis let me stare at it long enough for the numbers to burn into my brain. Then he clicked another tab, internal emails he shouldn't have had, but did, showing Draven begging investors for weeks, fancy dinners, fake smiles, promises he couldn't keep. All of them saying no, because the whispers were already out. The project was a house of cards balanced on a ticking bomb. 29 days, one missed payment, and the ground Draven had been dancing on would open up and swallow him whole. One debt, one signature from me to the lender, and I could own that note. Own him. Mr. Ellis looked me dead in the eyes. You buy this tomorrow morning, his whole world collapses by lunch. I felt the corner of my mouth twitch, something cold and sharp waking up inside me. All I had to do was buy that one debt, and Draven would lose everything. He had no idea who the new creditor was. I started small, quiet, like a ghost sliding through the alleys of the city. He still strutted around like a king. Mr. Ellis handed me a plain manila folder. No label, just a rubber band around it. Inside were names and numbers of every little guy Draven had stepped on. Concrete crews who hadn't seen a check in 90 days. Electricians keeping the lights on with credit cards. The Ramirez family who delivered rebar every week and still couldn't buy groceries. Mrs. Delgado, who took over her late husband's plumbing company and now cried in the truck because Draven's 30 days turned into 6 months. I bought the cheapest burner phone at a gas station, the kind nobody traces, sat on Daddy's porch in the dark and dialed the first number with shaking fingers. Hello, rough voice, tired. Mr. Carter, you don't know me, I said, keeping my voice low and steady, but I know Draven still owes your crew $42,000. I can have cash in your hand tomorrow morning if you'll meet me, 6 a.m. at the Sunrise Diner on 8th. Come alone. Dead silence. Then a cracked laugh. Lady, if this is some kind of joke. It's not. I'll be in the last booth, gray coat, black coffee. You'll walk out with enough to pay your men before the bank opens. He showed. So did the next one. And the next. I met them in greasy spoon diners before the sun came up, in empty parking lots behind shuttered stores, once in the back booth of a dive bar that smelled like spilled beer and old heartbreak. I kept a scarf over half my face, ordered coffee I never drank, and slid thick envelopes across scarred tabletops. Mrs. Delgado actually gasped when she opened hers. This is everything he owes us. Who are you? Just someone he forgot to pay, I whispered. Sign here. The debt belongs to me now. One by one they signed, eyes wet, hands shaking as hard as mine. They didn't need to know my name. They just needed their rent, their kids' medicine, their dignity back. And I needed their knives. They came looking beat down, eyes red from worrying how to pay rent. I slid envelopes across the table. Cash, thick, more than Draven ever promised them. In exchange, they signed over their invoices, their liens, their righteous anger. One old man cried into his coffee when I paid his crew's back wages on the spot. Another shook my hand so hard, I felt the calluses he got pouring Draven's fancy foundations. By the end of the week, I owned 37 separate debts, 37 knives I could twist whenever I felt like it. That's when the letters started landing on Draven's desk. Official envelopes, certified mail, polite but ice cold. Pay within 7 days or face legal action. He thought it was just 1 or 2 angry suppliers getting loud. Then 10 arrived in a single morning. Then 20. Phones ringing off the hook, emails screaming in all caps. His accountant looked like he hadn't slept in days. I watched it happen from a coffee shop across the street from his office building. New haircut, new clothes, big sunglasses so nobody recognized the wife he threw away. Maëlle came storming out one afternoon, clutching shopping bags, face twisted up like she swallowed something sour. She was on the phone yelling at someone to fix this right now. 2 days later, the local news ran a segment about workers picketing the Riverside site with signs that said, "Where's our money?" The camera caught Draven trying to sneak out the back. He looked smaller than I ever remembered. Inside the penthouse, things were cracking. I heard it from the doorman who used to call me Mrs. Draven. He still felt bad about that night. Plates smashing, Mael screaming about canceled credit cards, Draven pacing the marble floors at 3 a.m., making calls that went nowhere. He kept telling people some shadowy group was trying to take him down, that he'd find out who and crush them. He even hired private security because he was scared to walk to his car alone. Every time another payment demand hit his inbox, I felt the rope pull tighter around his neck. And I was the one holding the other end, calm, sipping tea in Daddy's kitchen while Mr. Ellis fed me updates. Draven still thought he was the hunter. He had no clue the mouse had grown claws. Late that Thursday night, my burner buzzed on the kitchen table, screen lighting up Daddy's tired old walls. Unknown number. I almost let it ring out, but something made me pick up. "Ma'am, it's Louis Ramirez, the concrete guy." His voice was barely above a whisper, like he was scared the walls were listening. I gotta tell you something. Draven came by the yard today, him and 2 of his guys. He got right up in my face, told me if I didn't stop talking to reporters and calling in debts, he'd make sure nobody in this city ever poured concrete for my family again. I could hear his little girl coughing in the background, that wet, scary sound that rips a parent apart. He grabbed my shirt, ma'am, said I was ruining everything. Then he laughed, said it didn't matter anyway because next Friday he's closing the deal of a lifetime. Some rich woman from out of town, mystery investor, already wired a deposit. Big presentation at the Grand Meridian Ballroom, black tie, champagne, the whole show. He kept bragging she's going to save him, give him enough to pay off that bridge loan, and tell the banks to shove it. Luis's voice cracked. He said after Friday, nobody will dare touch him. Said he'll be untouchable. I closed my eyes and saw Draven's smug face the night he threw Daddy's picture down 4 floors. "You did right calling me, Luis," I said real soft. "Take care of your little girl. Use the money I gave you for her surgery. And don't worry about Draven anymore." He started to say thank you, but I hung up before the tears hit my end too. Next Friday, black tie, mystery woman investor. Perfect. He already scheduled a meeting with a big investor, but had no idea who it would be. I was ready to grab him by the collar and pull him all the way down. I became Valeria Moreau. Mr. Ellis worked like he'd done this in another life. 2 days after Luis called, he showed up at the old house with a slim silver laptop and a look that said, "Don't ask questions you don't want answers to." "Sit," he told me, pulling Daddy's kitchen chair out like it was a boardroom. Screen lit up with folders I couldn't even pronounce. "We're making you Valeria Moreau, widow, old French money, 0 social media, likes her privacy. Here, look." He turned the laptop. A LinkedIn page, elegant woman in cream silk against the Eiffel Tower, dark sunglasses, hair perfect. Another photo on some yacht in Monaco. Not one clear shot of the face. The work history made my eyes water. Silent partner in half the big property flips in Europe. "This real?" I whispered. "Real enough to fool a desperate man," he said, clicking to the bank references. 3 different institutions, balances that started with more zeros than I'd ever seen. I know people who know people. All you do is sign where I tell you. I stared at the fake woman who looked nothing like the crying mess Draven threw out. What do I even say to him? Mr. Ellis slid a printed email across the table, already written, short, ice cold. Interested in the Riverside expansion. Exclusive meeting, Friday, 3 p.m., Meridian Tower, 42nd floor. Come alone or the offer disappears. V. Moreau. "That's it?" I asked. "That's it," he said, tapping the send button himself. "Men like Draven here come alone and smell money so strong they forget how to read. Watch." 6 minutes later, my burner buzzed. Draven's reply popped up, all eager emojis and, "Honored to meet you, Ms. Moreau. My associate will accompany me for note-taking. Looking forward to a fruitful partnership." Mr. Ellis actually laughed, dry and mean. "Associate. That's rich. He's bringing the girlfriend to show off the new queen. Let him." I read the words again. "Come alone or the offer disappears." and felt something steel slide into my spine. Valeria Moho didn't beg. Valeria Moho didn't get thrown out with the trash. He wrote back in 6 minutes. Looking forward to it, Ms. Moho. I'll bring my associate. Friday came fast. I got there 2 hours early, rented the entire executive floor under the fake name, told the staff I wanted privacy, tipped them enough that they forgot how to ask questions. The conference room was all glass and gold, cities spread out beneath like Wallingford was a toy set I could crush in my fist. I sat with my back to the door, high-backed leather chair, legs crossed, manicure the color of dried blood. The mirror on the opposite wall let me watch everything without turning around. At 2:58, the elevator dinged. I heard his shoes first, those stupid Italian loafers he bragged about. Then Mielle's heels clicking like a nervous bird. She was dripping in new diamonds, dressed tight and red, company card still smoking from the spree. Draven's voice floated in, too loud, trying to sound relaxed. Remember, let me do the talking. This woman is our ticket. Smile, look pretty, and don't touch the champagne until she does. Mielle gave a little whine. My feet hurt already. Are you sure she's even real? She wired a 50,000 euro retainer, Mielle. She's real. They stepped inside. I didn't move, just watched them in the mirror. Draven stepped into that glass room like he still owned the whole damn city. He tugged the knot of his tie up tight, the way he always did right before he lied to someone important, then flashed that same shark smile he used to charm bankers and grease inspectors. Only now the smile didn't reach his eyes. They were red-rimmed, sunken, like he hadn't slept since the first debt letter hit his desk. His cheeks were hollow, suit hanging looser on his shoulders, but you could still see the old swagger trying to crawl out. He walked straight to the head of the table, pulled the chair out like it was already his throne, and rested one hand on the back of it. Mielle hovered 2 steps behind him, clutching a tiny crystal-encrusted purse that probably cost more than the nurse's maid in a month taking care of my mom. Her red dress was new, tags probably still itching at the seam, and the diamonds around her neck flashed every time she breathed too fast. Relax, babe, Draven muttered, low and sharp, still staring at the back of my chair like he could will the money into his pocket. He didn't even turn around to look at her, just flicked one hand behind him the way you swat a fly. I already told you, this woman is panting for a piece of Riverside. Rich widows get lonely. They throw cash at anything shiny. Just stand there, keep your mouth shut, look expensive, and let me close the deal. Mielle shifted her weight, heels clicking on the marble. I do look expensive, she hissed back, defensive, clutching that ridiculous purse tighter. Yeah, you do, he snapped, voice dripping with sarcasm now. So act like it and stop breathing so loud. Smile when she walks in, nod when I talk numbers, and for once in your life, don't open your mouth unless I tell you to. She made a tiny, wounded sound, but he was already smoothing his tie again, rolling his shoulders, forcing that salesman grin back into place. Like the last month of panic and unpaid bills had never happened. Like he wasn't one signature away from losing everything. Mielle gave a nervous little laugh. I am expensive. He didn't answer. Just kept that fake smile plastered on, eyes locked on the back of my chair like he could already taste the money. He cleared his throat. Ms. Moreau, thank you so much for... I let the silence stretch until it hurt. Then I reached for the crystal water pitcher, poured myself a glass, took the slowest sip of my life. The ice clinked loud in the quiet. Draven shifted his weight. Mielle's smile was starting to crack. I set the glass down, perfect red lipstick print on the rim, and finally spoke, voice low and calm. Have a seat, Draven. He froze. That voice. He knew that voice. Mielle's eyes went wide. Wait, that sounds... I turned the chair, real slow. Draven and Mielle walked into the room, unaware that the person turning the chair around was me. The moment I turned the chair, both of them froze. No one was prepared for what I put on the table. The moment I turned the chair, both of them froze. No one was prepared for what I put on the table. I let the leather creak drag on forever, slow and deliberate, until the sound filled the whole room like a warning bell. The city behind me sparkled cold and sharp, like a million little knives pointing down at them. I looked Draven dead in the eyes first. All the blood drained from his face so fast, his lips turned gray. He swayed, actually swayed, like the floor had tilted under his feet. Miel let out this high, broken squeak, half scream, half gasp, and stumbled backward. Her heels scraped loud on the marble. 1 step, 2, 3, until her back slammed against the glass wall. She threw both hands up over her mouth, nails still perfect, diamonds shaking like they were scared too. "Taya?" she whispered through her fingers, voice cracking. No, this isn't... Draven, tell her this isn't real." I didn't speak. Not yet. I just reached down, popped the gold locks on the slim black briefcase, and started pulling out folders. Thump, thump, thump. 23 in total, lined up like soldiers, red tabs screaming overdue, black ink spelling out every lie he ever told a supplier. Concrete, rebar, payroll taxes, the 8-figure bridge loan that was choking the life out of him. Every single page stamped in bold, paid in full, assignment to T. Harlan. Draven's mouth opened, closed, opened again. Nothing came out but a dry rasp. I leaned back, crossed my legs slowly, and waited. The silence grew teeth. "Sit down, Draven," I finally said, soft as a lullaby. "You're in my chair." His knees buckled. He fell into the seat across from me so hard the table jumped. Maëlle stayed plastered to the wall, sliding down inch by inch until she was crouched on the floor, knees to her chest, whimpering like a kicked dog. I nudged the fattest folder toward him with one finger. "Open it." His hands shook so bad the cover rattled. Inside, the original land registry, Daddy's careful handwriting on the deed that never got transferred, and right beneath it, my fresh signature in thick black ink, dated 3 weeks ago. "You remember throwing my father's picture on the ground?" I asked, voice low enough that he had to lean in to hear. "Remember telling me my family was trash?" "Taya," his voice cracked like thin ice, barely a whisper at first, then it spilled out raw and desperate. "Baby, listen, please, listen to me." He tried to reach across the table, fingers clawing at the air between us, knuckles white. "Whatever this is, whatever they told you, we can fix it, I swear. I'll put everything back in your name. I'll sign whatever you want. Just don't do this. You know me. You know I didn't mean..." His words tripped over each other, hoarse, pleading, the same voice he used when he wanted me to forgive him for coming home late, smelling like her perfume. "Come on, Taya, we're still us. You're still my wife. We can figure this out together, like always. I'll make it right, I promise. Just tell me what you need. Tell me, and I'll do it right now." He was begging already, eyes wet, voice shaking so hard the table vibrated under his hands. "Please, baby, please don't take everything." "Everything you built," I cut him off, cold and clean. "Every crane you posed in front of, every lie you sold to investors, sits on land that was never yours. Permits expired the second I took title. And I took title, Draven, quietly. While you were busy changing the locks on a penthouse you don't even own anymore." His eyes bounced from the folders to the deed to my face, wild, hunting for a way out that wasn't there. I leaned in until he could feel my breath. "You're not just broke. You're trespassing." Miel started sobbing, loud and messy, mascara running black rivers down her cheeks. "Draven, do something," she wailed. "Fix this." Draven didn't look at her once. He was staring at me like I'd risen straight out of the grave he thought he buried me in. I pulled the final sheet from the briefcase, city letterhead, official seal, and slid it across the wood so the words faced him upside down. "Effective immediately. All land use permits for Riverside Elite Estates are revoked. Owner, Taya Harlan. Reason, non-renewal by legal title holder." His breath hitched hard enough to rattle his ribs. The paper trembled between his fingers like a dead leaf. "Your biggest project collapsed today," I said, standing up slowly, smoothing my skirt. "Banks call in every loan tomorrow morning. Suppliers already got paid. By me. You have exactly nothing left." Draven's mouth worked. No sound. Then his forehead slammed down onto the table with a sickening thud. He begins to kneel and beg. But that's only the beginning of his downfall. He begins to kneel and beg. But that's only the beginning of his downfall. Right there on the cold marble floor of the Meridian Tower conference room, Draven slid off the chair like his bones had turned to water. He hit his knees hard enough that I heard the thud echo. Hands came up, clasped together so tight his knuckles went white, shaking like he was praying to a god who'd already turned her back. "Taya, please," he choked out, voice raw and ugly. "I'm begging you. I'll leave tonight, I swear. I'll pack one bag and disappear. I'll sign whatever divorce papers you want tomorrow morning. No lawyers, no fight. Just don't take everything I worked for. Please, baby, I'm on my knees here." Tears were pouring down his face now, mixing with snot, dripping off his chin onto that expensive suit. He crawled forward one shuffle, fingers reaching toward my shoes like he wanted to grab them. "I was wrong. I know I was wrong. I'll fix it. I'll give it all back. Just give me one more chance." Miel didn't wait to hear if I'd answer. The second the word nothing left my mouth, her eyes went wide and glassy, like someone just told her the ship was already sinking. She shot up from the floor so fast her knees cracked against the marble, heels skittering like a startled deer. Purse clutched to her chest with both arms, like it was the only thing still worth saving. She looked at Draven, still on his knees, face wet and crumpled, and something in her face just shut off. The love, the greed, whatever it had been, gone in a heartbeat. "Miel," he croaked, reaching one shaking hand toward her. "Baby, help me. Tell her we can fix this." She didn't even slow down, gave me one last panicked, disgusted glance like I was the monster now, and bolted. Red dress flashing under the cold lights like fresh blood on snow. Her heel caught, snapped clean off, but she kept running, barefoot, limping, slamming the elevator call button so hard one of her fake nails popped off and pinged across the floor. Doors slid open. She stumbled inside, turned, and for 1 second, our eyes locked. "Close, close, close," she whimpered, stabbing the button over and over, tears already ruining her makeup. Draven tried crawling after her. "Miel, wait! Don't leave me like this!" The doors shut on his scream. She disappeared without a single word to the man who'd promised her the world, the penthouse, the diamonds, all of it. Just gone. The doors shut. I never saw her again. By the next morning, the investors were ghosts. Every single one. Draven's phone started blowing up at 6:30. First, it was the biggest backer, Mr. Caldwell, the one who loved slapping Draven on the back at charity galas and bragging about our boy's vision. Draven called him back 6 times, voice cracking louder with each voicemail. "Richard, it's Draven. Pick up, man. We've known each other 15 years. This is just a paperwork hiccup. Call me." Nothing. Straight to voicemail. Then the others followed like dominoes. Phone's dead. Assistant suddenly in meetings. Emails bouncing back with cold little messages. Delivery failed. One by one, the wires reversed. Millions flowing out so fast, the bank manager called Draven personally. "Mr. Draven, we're seeing an unprecedented withdrawal pattern. If this continues another hour, we'll have to freeze the accounts for your protection." Draven was screaming by then, pacing the penthouse in yesterday's shirt. "Protection? You think I'm the one who needs protecting? Get Richard Caldwell on the line right now." The manager's voice stayed flat. Mr. Caldwell's office informed us he is no longer associated with Riverside Elite Estates, effective immediately. I watched the news alerts pop up on my phone while I drank coffee in Daddy's quiet kitchen. Same men who toasted Draven with $1,000 champagne 6 months ago, who slapped his back and called him a genius, now acted like his name left a bad taste. One even told a reporter, "I barely knew the guy, just a casual handshake at an event." They erased him before breakfast. The newspapers smelled blood the second the permit revocation hit the city records. First, it was polite little headlines tucked on page 7. Riverside project halted. Permit mystery deepens. Then the photos started. Angry workers with hand-painted signs outside the gates shouting, "Where's our money?" By day 4, the front page screamed in bold, "Elite estates in chaos. Workers unpaid. Concrete tests missing." Reporters camped outside his office, digging through trash, talking to anyone who ever poured a foundation for him. They found fake invoices, materials ordered for one site and quietly sold somewhere else, concrete strength reports that didn't match what was actually poured. Every dirty secret he buried under those shiny marble countertops crawled out into daylight, ugly and stinking. 2 weeks later, I walked into the building that used to be ours, heels clicking across the same lobby where my clothes once lay in the rain. A brand new foreclosure notice was taped to the penthouse door. Thick cream paper, gold letters, official seal glaring under the chandelier. The auction crew was already inside, wrapping the Italian leather couches in plastic, hauling out the $8,000 wine fridge like it was junk. I stopped in the doorway and watched them carry that ridiculous abstract painting he bragged about, the one he paid $50,000 for at some charity auction, just to look important. Draven stood on the sidewalk in a wrinkled shirt, no tie, hair unwashed, clutching one single cardboard box with both arms like a lost child. The doorman, who used to bow and call him "Mr. Draven, sir," now stared at the floor, keys jingling in his nervous hand. "Morning, Marcus," I said, calm, letting the new key dangle from my finger. He finally looked up, eyes wide. Miss Harlan. They said the place sold yesterday." "It did," I answered, stepping past the movers. "To me." Behind me, Draven's voice cracked across the marble. "Taya, please, you don't have to watch this." I didn't turn around. Just walked to the elevator, pressed the button for the penthouse, and let the doors close on his broken face. I walked past him that day, carrying a small houseplant and the new key in my pocket. The code on the door was already changed back to the one I picked. I didn't say a word. Didn't need to. He looked up at me like a kicked dog and whispered, "Taya, please." I just stepped inside and let the door close behind me. He lost the cars, the watches, the private club membership, the friends who suddenly had full calendars. Everything shiny peeled away until there was nothing left but the man who once told me I came from nothing. But losing everything still wasn't enough. Not for what he did to my father's picture. Not for the nights I cried myself to sleep while he laughed in another woman's bed. That's when Mr. Ellis called me into Daddy's old kitchen, laid one last folder on the table, and opened it slow. Inside were tax returns that didn't match the books, invoices for materials that were delivered to one site and billed to another, kickbacks hidden in fake subcontractor names, enough to put someone away for years. He tapped the cover once. "This one's for the authorities. The police start paying attention. All I have to do is send this file, and it's over." The police start paying attention. All I have to do is send this file, and it's over. I sat at Daddy's kitchen table at 3 a.m, the house quiet except for the old fridge humming. The folder Mr. Ellis left was thick, heavy, final. Tax returns that didn't match deposits, invoices for steel that never arrived, signatures forged, kickbacks funneled through fake subcontractors, enough to bury Draven for years. I opened my laptop, attached every page, every spreadsheet, every whistleblower email. In the to line, I typed the address for the Wallingford Fraud Division, the same one I found on their public website. Subject line, anonymous tip, Riverside Elite Estates criminal fraud. My finger hovered over send for maybe 10 seconds. Then I clicked. By 9 the next morning, the raid was already happening. I watched it live on the local news, volume low. coffee getting cold in my hand, while the anchor's voice stayed calm and clinical. The screen split between the studio and a shaky phone feed outside Draven's glass office tower. Blue and red lights painted the whole street. Police cars blocked both ends like a dam holding back the chaos. Dozens of officers in black vests spilled out, moving fast, battering rams swinging between two of them like they expected the door to fight back. Inside the building, it was pure panic. Employees ran like ants when someone kicks the rock over, high heels clattering down emergency stairs, briefcases left wide open on desks, papers fluttering to the floor. One woman grabbed her purse and just sprinted, screaming. Computers were yanked from desks, hard drives ripped out, drawers dumped in heaps. A junior accountant stood frozen in the lobby, hands up, while an officer slapped yellow tape across the reception desk. System evidence, do not touch. Someone live tweeted the photo, and it was everywhere in seconds. Then the camera found Draven. He burst out of his corner office like he still owned the world, shirt untucked, tie gone, hair sticking up wild. He got right in the face of the biggest detective I'd ever seen, chest puffed out, finger jabbing the air. "Do you have any idea who I am?" he shouted, voice cracking on the last word. "This is harassment. I want your name and badge number right now. I'll have your job by tonight." The detective didn't flinch, just looked down at him like he was a loud child. "Sir, step back. I'm Draven Pierce. I know the mayor. I know the chief. You can't—" "Sir, turn around." Draven kept yelling, face purple, spit flying. The detective grabbed his arm, spun him, and in one smooth move, snapped the cuffs on. The metal click was loud enough to hear over the sirens. The whole street went dead quiet for half a second. Then the cameras exploded with flashes. Draven's knees buckled. He looked straight into the nearest lens, eyes wide, mouth open, and for the first time in his life, he had nothing to say. The detective didn't even blink, just reached out with one huge hand, spun Draven like he weighed nothing, and snapped the cuffs on so fast the click cracked across the whole lobby. Cold steel locked around the wrists that used to wear gold watches. "Draven Pierce, you're under arrest for tax evasion, fraud, and theft by deception," the detective said, voice flat like he was reading a grocery list. "You have the right to remain silent." Draven tried to twist away, face still purple. "This is a mistake. Take these off me right now." The detective ignored him, gripped the chain between the cuffs, and marched him forward. Every step echoed. Outside, the cameras were waiting like a firing squad. Flashbulbs popped white and hot over and over, lightning in daylight. Draven's head jerked with each burst, eyes wide, mouth open, trying to find one friendly face in the crowd and finding none. He hit the top step too fast, foot caught the edge, and he pitched forward. For 1 second he was falling, arms locked behind him, no way to catch himself. His shoe scraped concrete, knee buckled, and he almost went down face first on the courthouse steps. Nobody moved to help. Not one officer, not one former friend hiding behind a lens. He caught his balance at the last second, but the stumble was already immortal, replayed on every channel before the sun went down. The detective shoved him into the back of the cruiser without ceremony. Door slammed. Draven's face, gray now, pressed against the window as the car pulled away, mouth moving soundlessly. "Please, somebody." Nobody answered. They put him in the back of a cruiser while reporters shouted questions he couldn't answer. The headline ticker at the bottom of the screen rolled nonstop. "Construction CEO arrested. Fraud. Tax evasion. Theft." They replayed the moment the cuffs went on 50 times before lunch. Miel? Vanished. No social media, no sightings, no trace. Someone said she caught the first bus out of town with one suitcase and the diamonds she could still carry. Gone like smoke. Draven sat in that holding cell with nowhere left to run, no money for bail, no friends answering calls. The man who once threw my father's picture to the ground now stared at concrete walls, waiting for charges that would lock him away for good. That night, I drove back to Daddy's wooden house, legs shaky, heart loud in my ears. I locked the door, poured a small glass of the whiskey he used to keep for special days, and took the old cassette player out of the cedar box. Hands trembling, I pressed play one more time. His voice filled the room, deep and tired, and so sure. My father had foreseen everything, and he left one final message for me. My father had foreseen everything, and he left one final message for me. The house was dark except for the little lamp on the table. I poured one finger of his old whiskey, set the cassette player in front of me like it was holy, and pressed play with both hands because they wouldn't stop shaking. A soft hiss, then his voice filled the room, deeper than I remembered, tired from years of carrying more than anyone knew, but still strong. Hey, baby girl. If you're hearing this, things got real bad, and I'm sorry for that. I'm sorry I ain't there to hold you right now. My throat closed. I could smell the sawdust and coffee on him like he was sitting across from me. You always had the softest heart in the county, he went on, slow and steady. That's your gift, Taya, but it's also the thing folks will try to use. I watched men circle you since you were 16, smiling too wide, talking too sweet. I wasn't going to let them take what little we had just because my daughter's too kind to say no. So I hid it. Every acre, every dollar, every piece of dirt I bought with busted knuckles and long nights. Hid it under names they'd never look for. And I waited. The tape crackled. I heard him shift in the chair, the same squeak it always made. I knew one day somebody would hurt you bad enough to wake that fire I always saw sleeping in you. I didn't want you rich, baby. I wanted you strong. Strong enough to stand up when they tried to knock you down. Strong enough to protect yourself when I couldn't anymore. Tears were rolling hot down my cheeks, dripping onto the table. I felt the air change behind me, like a hand resting gentle on my shoulder. I swear I felt him there. Rough palm, warm, steady, the way he used to steady me when I was little and the world felt too big. I ain't proud I had to let you fall this far, he said, voice cracking just a little. But I'm proud of the woman who's listening to this right now, because she's still breathing, she's still fighting, and everything I saved is hers to do good with, not just to hurt the ones who hurt her. Build something, Taya. Build homes for folks who work with their hands like I did. Make the ground mean something better than fancy penthouses and lies. That's how you honor your old man. The tape clicked off. The silence was so heavy I could hear my own heart. I sat there until the sun came up, his words burning behind my eyes. He knew me better than I knew myself. He saw the weakness in my kindness and still trusted I'd find the strength underneath. Revenge tasted like ash now. I didn't want Draven's tears anymore. I wanted houses with porches where tired mothers could sit. I wanted kids running on grass their parents actually owned. I wanted the land Daddy bled for to lift people up instead of crushing them. That morning I called Mr. Ellis and the best architects in the state. I spread the old maps across the kitchen table and started drawing lines, not for punishment, but for healing. I knew what I had to do so my father's honor wouldn't be wasted. Last I heard, Draven took a plea. 8 years, no parole for the first 5. They moved him upstate to a gray concrete box where the guards call him inmate, and nobody asks for selfies. He gets 1 hour in the yard, walks in circles, thinner every month, hair gone almost white. Some nights he still wakes up screaming my name, or so the guard told Mr. Ellis after a visit. Mael never made it far. 3 states over, living under a fake name in a studio that smells like mildew and cheap wine. The diamonds got pawned, one by one. Then the designer bags. Then the lies she told herself. She works nights at a gas station now. Hair dyed cheap brown, eyes dead when the register camera catches her. Word is she flinches every time a customer says, ma'am. The girl who once wore my robe like a queen pumps unleaded for minimum wage and sleeps with the lights on, terrified someone from Wallingford will walk through the door and recognize the face that used to be on every gossip page. The first thing I did was stand on that empty riverside dirt at sunrise and tell the architects exactly what I wanted. No more glass towers for rich strangers. I wanted plain, strong houses with big windows and front porches wide enough for rocking chairs. Yards where kids could dig holes and dogs could chase balls. Houses a welder could buy after 20 years of overtime and still have money left for groceries. We broke ground on a Monday. I drove the first stake myself, mud splashing my jeans, tears mixing with the sweat on my face. When it came time to name the streets, I didn't even think twice. I walked into the city planning office with my list. Ramirez Lane, I told the clerk, voice steady, for Luis Ramirez and his crew who poured foundations in the rain and never saw a check. She looked up, surprised. You sure? Carter Circle, I kept going. Delgado Drive. Every name on this paper is a man-draven stift. They get the honor now. The first family was the Ramirezes. Little Sophia had just finished her last round of chemo. I met them at the end of their new street, keys cold in my palm. Luis stepped out of the truck, eyes already wet. Miss Taya, this can't be real. It's real, I said, pressing the keys into his hand. Your little girl gets to grow up on a street that carries your name. Go see your porch. Sophia squealed the second she saw the swing. She ran straight across the fresh grass, arms wide, laughing like the world had never hurt her. Luis dropped to his knees right there in the driveway, face in his hands, shoulders shaking. Every handover felt like that. A mother crying because she could finally stop moving her kids from apartment to apartment. A grandfather sitting on his new steps, whispering thank you to somebody upstairs. Me standing back, muddy boots, heart full, watching children run wild on ground that used to belong to lies. That was the smile I wanted Daddy to see. The rest of the land fund went the same way. Scholarships for trade school, a clinic that doesn't turn anybody away, a community center with a roof that never leaks. I walked those sites every morning, boots in the mud, coffee in my hand, listening to hammers and laughter instead of sirens and shouting. That was the sound Daddy wanted me to hear. His little wooden house got fixed too. New roof, fresh paint the color of butter, floors sanded smooth. I hung his memorial photo above the fireplace in a simple oak frame. No more cracks across his smile. Some nights, I still sit there with a cup of tea and talk to him out loud. He never answers, but the quiet feels different now. Like peace. Mr. Ellis never really left. Said he was too old to start over somewhere else. But I caught him smiling when the first families moved in. We spend most days shoulder to shoulder over blueprints and budgets. He brings coffee, I bring sandwiches, and sometimes our hands brush when we reach for the same pen. Neither of us says much about it. Some things don't need words. They just grow quiet and steady, like good love is supposed to. Draven stopped being the fight a long time ago. The real fight now is the one inside my own chest. Some mornings I wake up angry at myself for staying so long, for apologizing when I should have screamed, for believing love meant swallowing every hurt. Forgiving him was easy once he was gone. Forgiving myself for enduring it, that's the part that still keeps me up. Yesterday I was cleaning out the old desk, getting ready for the community center opening, when a folded letter slipped from a notebook I hadn't touched in years. Daddy's handwriting on the outside. Read when you're ready, baby girl. I haven't opened it yet. It's sitting on the mantel next to his picture, waiting. Like there's still something he hasn't finished saying. Sometimes to stand upright in life, you have to walk back through the very place that once made you kneel. Thank you for walking this road with me, sisters. If tonight you're sitting alone with your own broken pieces, know this. The ground under you might be worth more than they ever told you. Your story isn't over. Your father's voice is still in the walls, still in your blood, still whispering, keep going. Hit that follow button if you need reminding. Leave me your own stories below. I read every single one. We're not alone anymore. See you in the next chapter of whatever comes after rebirth. I love you.